Okay, I think we're recording, aren't we?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so,
Indeed.
and we're recording on the other thing too. Hi, I'm Phillidore.
And I'm Klara,
And this is a sheep staring at me.
a podcast on history, culture, literature,
Geeky things and life in general.
and this is our first episode.
Ever. So yeah, basically I asked a bunch of friends what we should talk about in the first episode, because, well, we're both completely clueless, to be honest. And some friends said, yeah, just because it's the first episode, talk about how you met, and then I don't know, language. So that's what we're gonna do. Basically what we thought is we're both gonna tell from our perspectives how we met. And yeah, do you want to start, Klara?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've noticed with us is that where we met and since when we're actually friends differs. We've known each other for 6 or 7 years, I think, and we've been proper friends since a little over 1.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me that it's such a short time, actually, but the last year seemed like 10, so it's fine. So we met at school, and funnily enough, I could never properly remember seeing you there because you were one of those people that I always saw, but I didn't know the name of, and if I did, I forgot it again. But you have a stronger memory of me at school than I of you. So we weren't yet friends, but we knew of each other, and we had friends that knew each other, and so we were not in each other's focus as much, but we knew of each other. And then we met again at uni and had one course together, which was, I think, Utopia. And in that, we also didn't talk to each other. But I saw you and I thought, wait, you know that one. You've seen her somewhere. And for the whole semester, I thought, where have you seen her? And then we had another course together in the winter term of 2019, 2020,
Yep.
where we quickly became friends. I think without making it fast, we just sat next to each other and started talking, and it was a matter-of-fact conclusion to all of what happened before.
So, well, my version isn't much different, but I remember because I was new at school for the last 3 years and you were a year above me, so we didn't have any courses. But I knew you knew some people I knew. God, that was a lot of news. And yeah, so I kind of was aware of you. I was like, I didn't know your name. No idea. Back then. I had no idea. And then we talked, I think, in your last week at school, because you wore a Star Trek uniform at one of the costume days.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that, but that was like 10 minutes and we still didn't know each other's names. And then I went to uni.
And I was too awkward to ask you.
What?
And I was too awkward to ask you. I was too awkward to ask after your name.
Yeah, me too. It was just so weird. Anyway, so, you know, after that I went to uni and I saw you on the bus and on the train and in the buildings, and I always said hi or nodded. So that was like, yeah, okay, probably lives in the same city as me, so makes sense. Was at the same school as me. Okay. And then I noticed you in a course that we had together in Utopia, and I still was like, I was there with friends and it was just yeah, again, was too awkward in a way. And then friends who own a friend who owns a shop, who's also a friend of yours and your mum's, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, knows them, knows you at least, you know, knows my mum too. She and another friend who helped and worked there as well, told me, hey, don't you know Klara? She's going to Norwich. I was like, who's Klara? And then basically, I don't know, then I kind of found you on Facebook and sent you a friend request, and then I knew that you also studied at uni, and then because I saw that you were one of 2 people that were already in the room, I figured might as well sit with her.
Yeah.
And finally talk, because apparently we're supposed to be best friends but don't know each other, so you know.
It was the logical choice.
Not much to lose either, because I was there alone and I didn't know anyone else in the course at that point, and later either I didn't know anyone. So
I knew one other person, but also I think she skipped the course sometimes, so
yeah, she did.
yeah.
But the one time that you weren't there, she was there, so that was good.
That's nice. Yeah, that was the time I think I completely overslept, which has to happen at least once a term to me.
Which is interesting, because that course was it a 2?
Well, then I'd like to retract that statement. I did not.
No, no, it was at 12 o'clock and it ended at 2. Yeah. Because I had
no idea anymore.
I had 4 hours of Dutch after that, so I know that Dutch ended at 6. So
True. Yeah.
yeah, why do I remember details like that?
I don't remember. I suppose I didn't oversleep, but
I mean,
I
and
wasn't.
about that course, it was I don't even know. You said at some point that I talked in Dutch to the teacher, and I didn't even realize that I was speaking Dutch. So I mean,
Did.
I did.
He did, and he was well, a mix of bemused and amused.
At least not confused. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, so that was basically how we got to know each other, or started getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And I find it serendipitous that we met before that COVID thing happened, because that was the last course, or one of the last courses I had in person.
Yeah, true. But I had so many courses that term. I mean, I had so much stuff to do. I think even just language courses. I had 2 language courses, which is 4 hours per language course, and then ideally meeting up with people still. And so I was there a lot for language courses alone. So it was insane, pretty much.
Absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, now I do everything in my bedroom.
Same.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't mind. I can roll out of bed and just join a course meeting, which is fine. I don't mind.
But we definitely wouldn't have gotten into contact with many other people during the last year, or with each other. I haven't stayed in contact with any of the people I got to know in the online courses. They're just a name on the screen for me.
Yeah, well, I did talk to some, because again, I had a language course, or several language courses. So that was a thing. You need to be in contact with those people, because there is an oral exam in the end, and you kind of need to try and, actually study for that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even have graded courses, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah. So, okay. So we've covered how we met.
Yeah.
So language, you did write stuff down.
Yeah, I did.
As far as I
very well prepared.
I'm not
the
prepared.
obvious stuff I should remember because it's my own life. But yeah, I think we didn't actually say what we were studying. I mean, to people who know us listening to this, they know, but I am studying, yes, I am studying English and philosophy to become a teacher.
Well, and I'm studying history and English, but not to become a teacher. Ideally, maybe a lecturer one day, but I don't really know.
Yeah. So we met in English courses and got to know each other there. So, and attentive listeners might have gotten by now that we're talking English, and British English at that. And but we're also German.
Yeah.
So do you want to start on how your accent came to be?
Oh, that is very muddled. But I can, yeah, sure. So my accent was a weird thing. I was really shit at English. I was really, really shit at it in school. Until I was about 13. I was really crap. And when I was about 10 or 11, I started listening to folk music, mainly the Dubliners, Irish folk music in that case. And so the bit of an accent that I had kind of became really Irish. So I had a really, really Irish accent, and it was really, well, the bits that weren't German were Irish. And then I kind of drifted off into Scottish folk music. Okay. Anyway, I drifted off into Scottish folk music, and so my accent became a bit more Scottish. But at the same time as listening to Scottish folk music, I then discovered watching series and films in English. So I think I watched Buffy in English, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like the whole series. And I watched it in English, and I kind of figured, I'm probably going to adapt one of these accents because I just do that kind of thing accidentally. And I was 14 at the time, I think. So I kind of figured, better the British than the others, because the others around here don't sound so professional. I don't know. I felt like they didn't feel as professional or as me as a British accent. So my British accent developed from there, and then I kind of got into the Beatles, and it got a bit more northern, and then I got into Doctor Who, and it got more northern again, and then I had a really, really Londoner accent. I don't know what that was about. But then a few years ago, I don't know, 17, 18 or so, I suddenly had this accent, which, was really, really northern, and it hasn't left. So, yeah.
So it's yeah. Same as my posh one is. I think for me it was more linear, but I can't really pinpoint the beginning. For me, it actually started with the Beatles, I think. But at that time, I didn't adopt the accent because, well, not because, but maybe because I was very much mediocre at English at that time. And we're talking about maybe 2010, maybe 2009,
Yeah.
when I got to know the Beatles. And I wasn't actually that interested in school English at that time. Now I am interested in the topics that we talked about there, but I needed the understanding of the culture to be interested in the grammar. So my English at that time was fine, I guess. But if I had to put a year on when my British accent started to pick up, I would say 2014, because my English advanced course started, and sometime after the course started, someone told me, why do you sound so British? And I realized that I had no idea what I was sounding like.
Yeah.
Was it the same with you?
Similar. Well, yeah, it wasn't my English advanced course. It was my English, my first English course at the Fichte at our school. And the teacher kind of took me aside after the first lesson or so and was like, why do you have that accent? I was like, what accent?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And he's like, you're really British. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember hearing the first sentences my new teacher then said in English, and I thought, I want to talk like that. Because I was also very aware of difficulties I had in English at that time, which were mostly about reading. I couldn't read aloud very well because I stuttered and swallowed syllables. And I would say the progress from then on was mostly unconscious, but let's call it semi-conscious, because I had that awareness that I wanted to speak nicely. And we're not saying that other accents and dialects are not nice, but apparently my default nice English is a posh RP, Queen's English, whatever you want to call it. So I try to speak clearer, more enunciatedly. And
Orion.
exactly. And I was heavily influenced by series I was watching at that time, which I think were Sherlock, Downton Abbey, and reading Sherlock Holmes. So
For me,
if that isn't a posh accent.
for me, it was actually the Granada series that made me like realize the difference of a posh accent to its other accents. You know? So
I watched that at the time. I tried to, but I couldn't understand a single word.
I did understand it because I had watched it in German so many times that I knew what was said, so it wasn't a problem. But with Sherlock, I really had my problems because he spoke so fast.
Yes, I had my problems with that too. Yeah. I mean, I must have started watching series and reading books earlier than that, because I think by my A-level course in English, I had gotten through all of Star Trek in English, and that takes a little bit more than a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well,
but surprisingly, I must say, after acquiring an accent so naturally, surprisingly, I didn't get an American accent by Star Trek. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it has to do with the singular sounds in English I was using at that time. Because when I noticed that I had difficulties talking fluently and reading aloud, I spoke more clearly. And at some point I realized that I had lost the rhotic R, that I didn't say water anymore, but water. And as you can hear, I also, my T's also became crisper.
yeah, well, I swallowed the T's, which is hilarious
A very British thing to do.
because my mum at some point told me, "Oh, stop swallowing the T's," and I had a cup of tea in my hand, and I was like, "Okay." So that was like, I think that was one of the most British things.
Might have been, yeah.
So accents. But I do you find it still quite easy to go back into an American accent or something like that?
It sounds hideous. It is a very good question, and it's hideous. I suppose I had sort of an American accent. I also had a phase where I was really interested in American culture, and I'm going to be an English teacher. I have to know a bit about it. I was so interested that I wrote a little term paper about the history of marshmallows. Yes, pâté de mauve, they were originally called. It was a plant in France, and
okay, yeah, okay.
it was because of Star Trek. Where was I? Help.
American accents.
Yes. I suppose I never had a proper American accent. This is clearly British, but I never would have called my accent American. But I'm lost again. The marshmallows really made me lose it.
But
yes, American accent. When I do try an American accent, it sounds hideous because I actively channel what I feel is the strongest accent and what had the most influence on me. And that is some kind of mixture between Dr. McCoy and Forrest Gump. I can say things McCoy says in Star Trek, things like, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not an escalator." And I apologize to all Americans that may in the far future listen to this. Personally, a personal apology goes out to Aaron. I'm sorry. I mean, at least it's two southern states.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
It does entertain me, but as to the question, I do not have an American accent. I sometimes have the character of an American accent. Um, about dialects and accents, they mostly focus on Great Britain, which leads to some confusion because my accent also wasn't always Southern British or RP. There was a time when my accent apparently sounded Scottish or Australian for the first 10 minutes of me talking, because I was asked in the
Happens.
first 2 terms at uni, did you spend time in Scotland or Australia?
But that still happens with you. Either when you're really, really tired, I think. I mean, the Australian, I think, happens when you're really, really, really invested in something. I don't know, but it kind of
Yeah.
sometimes happens. It comes through.
And
Like
also get this lilt in my language, you know what I mean?
putting more vowels into a word that need to be there. I think it's
I
just
do that.
it's that kind of thing.
That makes a lot of sense because I started elongating my vowels when I noticed I'm just muffling my language
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Well, and the Scottish, I think, comes through when you drink.
It does. You can ask Lovis. Shout out to Lovis. We were walking along a quiet, dark theatre street in Norwich, and I had something. The fact that I don't remember doesn't have to concern you. I just don't remember. I can remember everything that happened, just not what I had. It was some cocktail
Okay.
with strawberry in it, I think. And she got in stitches over that. I cannot for the life of me do a Scottish accent when asked, but apparently after a certain amount of alcohol, it does hit me.
Yeah, well, with me, my accent just gets, with uni things, it gets really posh. I'm now just getting into my normal accent right now because the Zoom thing really triggers me as uni thing. So I get really
Yeah.
posh. But when in company and when speaking English, in a friend group and maybe even drinking doesn't need to be a part of it. I get more northern by the second. It's genuinely, it's so weird sometimes because I just speak really fast and really northern, and sometimes people don't understand me. I mean,
How
that.
does the accent react? Because I noticed that when people around me talk in dialects or local variants of accents, I get even more posh. But other people I've watched become more the local variant. And I get the poshest I can be, and I don't even do it on purpose.
I don't do it on purpose either. Also, if I'm like hanging out with friends and they're posh, or I don't know, American or whatever, I get more northern. But if I'm watching an American TV show, anything really, just for myself, then I become more posh, I think, because I don't know if it's an inherent fear of suddenly becoming American or something. It's just, I don't know. It's just
I get
something that
that.
happens.
Much to the pride of my favorite American, I have acquired, according to her, some American slang. Because sometimes when talking to her, I say things like kinda and like and sorta, but
Doesn't have to be American.
doesn't have to be American. But she's very proud of that achievement of hers.
But I'm
Right,
also,
because I noticed how unchangeable and firm my accent is otherwise, so that she managed to slip a couple of phrases in there is remarkable.
well, I think that's just normal. I think that just happens if you speak with someone quite a lot. You just acquire some things that they do. For example, with my best friend, we've been friends. I think in August or so, we'll be friends for 7 years now. So since I came to the school, and yeah, basically, she has some mannerisms that I adapted for myself, or I don't know if I really adapted the same mannerisms, but they feel like they're the same mannerisms. Or some words. I never said ditto ever before. And then I was friends with her for like 3 weeks, and suddenly I used the word ditto quite a lot.
Yes.
So
Emphasize with
yeah.
that. Empathize.
So shout out to Neela on that one. So,
Shout outs in this first episode.
shout outs, a lot of them.
But they are formed us into what we are.
Yeah. So
Like it or not.
yeah. Basically, I think we talked a lot about accents now, but so because people don't really know us at this point, unless they already know us. What a sentence. I guess some weird stuff to get to know us. I don't know why I thought about that at some point and I wrote it down, but we asked ourselves the questions: what are the most terrifying album covers that we've ever seen, basically, and which, to even it out, which is the best one? So yeah, I guess they're LP covers, because I'm pretty sure that they'll be of older music. So, so yeah.
Yeah.
I guess with the most terrifying one, I'm going to start because I have a feeling you might rant. So,
Go ahead.
the most terrifying album cover I have ever seen is "Build Me Up Buttercup" by the Foundations. I think not the single, but rather the actual album, because it's a daisy flower, it's a daisy, but it's just the form of it and a kid's face in it, and it's not specific, it's just a face in it, and it's the most creepy thing I've seen. You can research that. I've googled it. If you Google "Build Me Up Buttercup" album, you will find it.
I regret to say I found it.
Yeah, it's it's really terrifying. And I mean, I had one of those moments. I was on YouTube and I was, listening to music, and I kind of just didn't really look at it, and I tapped on the next song, and it was "Build Me Up Buttercup," and I didn't really look at it, and it was one of those videos where there's just an album cover in the middle. And then I made the mistake of looking at my phone and got the shock of my life. So yeah, so what's yours?
Well, the first thing that came to mind, and I don't actually remember if that is a single or a compilation album, but it's "Yesterday and Today" by the Beatles.
Oh yeah, I think it's an American.
Could be, yeah.
I've got it on my phone, I know that much, but I think it's a
I
UK
don't have it.
version.
I've only seen the picture and it scared me. I mean, a good runner-up is "News of the World" by Queen, because that big robot holding the members of Queen in one hand and they falling down is slightly disturbing, but even more so the Beatles one, because it has this randomness to it, and I don't understand.
I think I haven't seen it. Can you like somewhat describe?
Well, the Beatles are sitting on the album cover. They're all clothed in white, and I think it's supposed to be surgeon's gear. And then there are these baby dolls, and they are
That one.
on laps, and they don't even hold them. But I think John has a head or an arm, something on his shoulder, and there are limbs scattered about, and they're neatly placed, but very much not like a baby should be placed. And I want to say there's artificial blood, but that might be my dramatic memory.
I think I remember that too, but I mean I know which picture you mean.
Yeah.
It is disturbing. I have to
How
say.
interesting that both of ours are to do with babies.
I have to say to that, I'm generally not afraid of babies.
Yes, Let's
know,
put the same here.
they-
We are not afraid of babies.
I mean, if they pointed me, maybe, might be. Depends on the baby,
Yeah,
really. But genuinely, that is disturbing. Yeah. Anyway, so to
it
make it better,
is.
what is your best one?
Well, that was interesting because the first thing that came to mind was one that could actually be counted among the most disturbing ones, but I like it among the best because it is interesting. And that is The Miracle by Queen. And the faces of the Queen members morph into each other on the album.
That one.
It
Yeah.
is creepy, but
Slightly.
it's not so pulled out of context.
It sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
In a way, it makes sense because it isn't one of the very first, I think, albums. It's more in the middle there.
Yeah.
So if you buy that one, you know which band Queen is. So
Exactly.
so you know what to expect, and you're not creeped out by it. So it kind of makes it better, I think. Yeah. But for me, the best one, I couldn't really decide. I have to say, I couldn't decide because they're both Jethro Tull albums. I couldn't say that. Stormwatch and Broadsword, and they're like, I think people talk about them as the best album covers ever at some point somewhere. I don't know. I've been told that at some point, but I really like them. They're really cool. Broadsword has these like runes and stuff, and it's a really cool. It's a really really cool cover. And Stormwatch just has this sailing ship on it, and it's slightly disturbing, but in a really good way, I think.
I get that. I had the same feeling with The Miracle.
Yeah. No, but
Um,
with the ship, it's because it's a ship in the middle of a storm,
hmm.
and that's why it's disturbing, because it looks really real. So it's like, oh. So yeah.
I like the album covers where I can look for things. I just really
Yeah.
like. With The Miracle, I always like to see where the eyes of one member ended and where the eyes of the next one started, because they did that really well.
Yeah, I remember looking at that.
And at least honoring. Sorry?
I said I remember looking at that for a while, but what did you say?
And an honorary mention to that topic is, of course, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, because I really like to spot people I knew on there. But then again, I almost knew no one there, and I had fun seeing that the Beatles were standing next to their own wax figures. But ultimately, this has to go to The Miracle.
Yeah, well, and we've been talking for 33 minutes now, so
Not a bad time at all.
I guess we were worrying about being done after 15 minutes.
I was worrying about it already having been 1.5 hours. My time perception is a mess.
No, I mean I've got the clock running here in front of me, so I always had a bit of a feeling. Did we forget anything? You mentioned the keyword catchphrases at some point.
Yes, just on the topic of languages, if we have certain, let's call it catchphrases, things we repeatedly say, also known as catchphrase. And that may be influenced by other people talking to us more frequently, but I have noticed that I hyperfixate on things I read in novels and then take those things and say them all the time. For example, I am not a very idiomatic person. I usually say things like they are, and I don't use idioms. But I have 2 or 3 that I use all the time. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there. This is solely my subjective perception of not using idioms, or maybe my hope. But one that I keep using, at least nowadays, is going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's true. You do that a lot.
And
I
I
mean,
really
use it and go down the rabbit hole. You do both.
exactly. I mean, it makes sense, but
Yeah. No, I think out of the two of us, I'm the one who uses more idioms.
You are, definitely.
Definitely, yeah, because you just say things like they are. Mostly you just use the scientific word, so to say, for whatever, really. And I usually, like, I don't know, I'm not good at talking to people. I mean, I am good at talking to people these days, but I was really shit at talking to people. So I never knew how to explain things, and I got really flustered really easily, not because of topics, but rather because of
Yeah.
social situations, not even anxiety, but just situations and people embarrassing me in situations, and they shouldn't have done that. And
Yeah, that's not nice. Yeah. I think for me, it's actually a very similar reason. I mean, people didn't make fun of me, but I didn't understand idioms, and I still don't. I can look them up and I can understand them, but I do not prefer them to just saying it how it is. And a lot of mishaps happen when I start to use idioms without looking them up first. For example, the two nice idioms, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, and burning bridges. I've been known to say, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. And to be fair, I might have also read that on the internet and picked that up, but it's a mishap that happens so frequently that I've decided to just continue using it because it is human nature to burn the bridges.
yeah, well, I think where my use of idioms came from was basically, I think watching a lot of QI and, you know, listening to a lot of stuff that Stephen Fry narrated. My goodness me. For example, also the phrase "my goodness me" is something that I don't know. I watched so much QI with Stephen Fry that I just adapted that.
Yeah.
My goodness me,
I would say.
and describing things as quite something is very, yeah. But the use of idioms really came from me not knowing how to describe feelings or what feeling what was. So I didn't know what I was feeling, I guess. And so I described other situations in which I felt like that, or scenarios that came into my head, and so I described those, and I was like, it's like that. And then I kind of would get to the idiom from there, and if something similar happened again, I would just simply use the idiom. So yeah.
And I'm probably idiomatic in behavior, but not in language, because the very scientific language comes from watching Star Trek. And if that isn't the whole idiom that I refer to Star Trek when I don't know what to say, of course, it's always relative. That's a very crass way of saying that.
Yeah, but Star Trek also taught, I mean, even just the original series and Next Generation, they talked about everything. They had, you know, Next Generation, they had Data who didn't understand feelings, so they had to explain them to him. So it just, you know, it makes sense.
It does. Yeah, I have to say it does.
Yeah, well, I suppose we should wrap it up now, because
Yes.
otherwise we do
Close
get
the
nowhere.
hailing frequencies.
Hmm?
We should close the hailing frequencies.
We should, yeah. So this was a sheep staring at me, and yeah, we see you sometime in the future, I suppose. I don't know when, genuinely.
Future, hopefully not in the past.
I mean, that would be interesting, but maybe we'll go to the past topic wise. I don't know. We might do that.
Maybe.
So,
Let's see what.